Hi, boys and girls. We're going to pick up where we left off with chocolate fever. We are on chapter 5, Calling Dr. Fargo. In later years, Henry couldn't remember who screamed first. All he could recall, all he could remember, was that he and Mrs. Kimmel Farber were yelling their heads off, and that Nurse Molly was as cool as a cannibal. "Calm down now, both of you," she said. "Mrs. Kimmel Farber, you go and call Mrs. Green on the telephone. Tell her we're taking Henry to City Hospital." Mrs. Kimmel Farber didn't move. She just stood there, with her mouth open, staring at Henry. "You scoot," insisted Nurse Molly, in a stern tone. "Swoosh, off with you." "And you, Henry Green," she said, as Mrs. Kimmel Farber left the room, "are coming with me. Let us go, quietly and calmly." She took his hand, and once again, Henry noticed that it felt good and somehow made him feel better. He kept holding her cool hand as they left the school. All the way to the hospital, as the taxi sped along, Henry held fast to the calm, steady hand of Nurse Molly. In fact, it wasn't until he had been checked in by 2 different doctors and was waiting to be examined by the hospital chief of children's medicine, Dr. Fargo, that he dared to let go. What? Said Dr. Fargo as he came bounding into the exam room. He was a small, round man, with a bushy white mustache and a confused look on his face.
Ezekiel, what time do we have to log back in again?
9:40. Sorry, boys and girls, about that.
Yeah, I also forgot.
Okay.
She's not answering.
9:40. Boys and girls, I am answering. I'm doing a read aloud. 9:40.
Okay.
Sorry about that, my friends. I was answering, but I was on mute. Whoops. Okay, so Dr. Fargo came bounding into the exam room. He was a small, round man with a bushy white mustache and a confused look on his face. "What do we have here, huh?" he asked. "Boy looks like he fell in a mud puddle." He leaned down so closely to Henry's nose that Henry could smell his puffy breath. Ugh. It smelled like peppermints, so not so bad. "Didn't fall in a mud puddle, did you, lad?" "No, sir." "Didn't think so," said Dr. Fargo. "Too bad. Would have explained what those big brown spots are all over you." "Well then," he turned to Nurse Molly. "Nurse Molly?" Tell me things. Tell me all the information." "You're not going to believe this, Doctor," Nurse Molly began as she told Dr. Fargo about the events that morning. "I am not going to believe this," Dr. Fargo repeated when she had finished. "It's impossible. No rash in the whole history of rashes ever appeared so fast, or grew so big, or popped out with a noise you could hear. Impossible." "It happened," said Nurse Molly. "So I see. Well, soon get to the bottom of this, or my name's not, what's my name again?" "Dr. Fargo, I believe," said Henry. "Pleased to meet you, son," said Dr. Fargo, and he shook Henry's hand. "Ought to do something about those big brown spots, though." "Yes, sir," said Henry, who was beginning to feel a bit confused himself. Dr. Fargo took Henry to the examining room and switched on the big lamp. For a full 5 minutes he said nothing but and as he poked and prodded Henry. He looked at every big brown spot and at all the bare spots in between the brown spots. He looked with a magnifying glass and without a magnifying glass, in Henry's eyes and ears and nose and even under his tongue. Finally he said, "I don't know any more now than I did when I started. They look just like your typical big brown spots, except, of course, in the whole history of the civilized world, There has never been a case of big brown spots before. I'm scared, said Henry. I'm Dr. Fargo, said the doctor. That much I know. Now, what I'd like to do is get to know more about these brown spots of yours. He wetted the tip of a cotton swab and brushed it against one of the big brown spots on Henry's right arm. Ouch, said Henry. Did that hurt? No. Then why did you say ouch? Because, Henry said, I thought it was going to hurt. I see, said Dr. Fargo, shaking his head. He put the cotton swab into the glass jar. Take this to the laboratory at once, he said to one of his assistants, and the man rushed out of the room. In a few minutes, we'll know more about these big brown spots of yours, the doctor said. Hands behind his back, he began to pace the room. Suddenly, he stopped. His nose was in the air. Who has been eating a candy bar in my office? He demanded. No one answered. Dr. Fargo's nose twitched from side to side, sniffing the air. I smell candy, he said. Someone's been eating a candy bar. Just then, the telephone rang, and Dr. Fargo bounded across the room to answer it. What? What? He said into the phone. Are you sure? His white mustache bounced up and down as Dr. Fargo sank slowly into a chair. He put the telephone down, a look of amazement on his face. Chocolate? He said. Those big brown spots are pure chocolate? Chocolate? Gasped Miss Chocolate?
Miss Augustine, please
Exclaimed
come to the
Henry.
office. Thank you.
Chocolate? Echoed Dr. Fargo's two assistants. Exactly, said Dr. Fargo. The boy, it seems, is nothing more than a walking chocolate bar. So this was the picture from when they were examining him and when they were waiting for the test results. You can see all of the big brown spots. Dr. Fargo, Nurse Molly. Oh no, this is probably Dr. Fargo because he's round with a white mustache. Nurse Molly and his two assistants, and this is Henry. Stay tuned for Chapter 6.